everybody. Thanks, Delphine. So I'm Erwan Taloc, CEO and Product Manager of iTop.
And hello, everybody. I'm Planque Benjamin, and I'm the product owner of iTop.
Okay, so after a long summer, we have just released the 3.2 version this Tuesday. And so today we will present this new version with a big focus on what is a long-term support and some new features we have developed. Then we will see at the end of the presentation what will come in the coming months after this brand new release. And as Delphine said, ask all the questions you have during the webinar, and we will have a question and answer session at the end in order to try to answer most of your questions. So as I said, the 3.2 is the new long-term support. It's here since Tuesday. Some of you have tested it during summer and so on. And so to begin this presentation, I will let Benjamin remind you what is a long-term support and all the concepts that are behind.
Thank you, Erwan. So we've started this long-term support, this LTS strategy 5 years ago with the first long-term support, which was the 2.7. Since then, we have developed 3 versions of iTop, and here is the new one, the new long-term support. The main goal of this release is to have a robust platform for the next year. So we focused on the upgrade of the language, the PHP language. The 3.2 is now compatible with PHP 8.3. Which means we are ready for the next year. And the upgrade of lots of library are now compliant with MariaDB 10.12. Sorry. We are still compatible with MySQL, but since MySQL 8, we doesn't recommend to use MySQL for performance purpose. So the end of the 2.7 is not right now. You have a little bit of time. We will continue to support the 2.7 until next year, September 2025, to let you have the time to migrate to the new 3.2. Just for your information, when we release a LTS, we focus on the maintenance of this LTS. And for example, since the 2.7.0, we have fixed more than 300 bugs in this version, the 2.7. So be ready for the 3.2, and it will be okay. So as this version is a long-term support, we didn't want it to be disruptive, but this version is the consolidation of all the work we have made since the 2.7. So to remind you, we made a huge change concerning the ergonomy and the usability in 3.0. The user experience has been much more improved. We have added some customization capabilities, and we will continue to do so. We know that this is one of the force of iTop. We have improved the audit section, but also the authentication process. Has been improved a lot. We know the capabilities of authentication delegation, single sign-on, and SAML. Lots of new features are now available. We have updated the HTML editor. We are using a library called CK Editor in iTop, and we wanted to have the latest version of this library. So we are now on CK Editor 5. you'll see it's a bit sleeker. It's still with the tab a little bit better. So you'll see this. You'll tell us. And at last but not least, sorry, we have improved the notifications, so we are now able to deal with webhooks. You'll see that there is some new feature coming with iTop 3.2, but Erwan will talk about it a little bit later. LTS is focused on the robustness. So on the graph, you can see the fragmentation of our customer versions. So you see that nearly half of our customers are now in 3.1. So that's really good. It means that you follow the version and you don't necessarily wait for the LTS version. That's a good sign for us. We see that we have 18% in 3.0. So I assume that these are the customers that wanted to have the new looks. And we still have a quarter of our customers still in 2.7. So for this one, I think they will be very happy to know that the 3.2 is now up. In the 2.7 version, we decided that all of our LTS version will be audited by a security company, an external auditor, some pen testers. So we've made an audit on the iTop 2.7, and in iTop 3.2, we made 4 different audits with different companies. This led us to fix around 15 security vulnerabilities, and we are still focused on the security of the product. So this is a very important point for us. Of course, as the 3.2 is now released, the designer is already ready. So if you install a 3.2 from now, you can connect it to the designer. And all the extensions are fully compatible to the 3.2.
Yes, and they are compatible as well with PHP 8.3 as we have extended the level of compatibility with PHP.
Thank you, Erwan. So some information concerning the migration of iTop 3.2. First of all, you can be safe because we are using the 3.2 since June. So if you created a ticket on our iTop, or if you come to check the documentation on our portal, you already have used the 3.2 version. We have made lots of work to create some migration notes, so don't hesitate to read these notes and to learn before going to this migration. And if you are a Combodo customer, of course, you can contact us. We will help you, and we can provide a pre-migration audit based on your customization. Sorry. We have still some advice concerning this migration. So if you are coming from the 2.7, you will see that there are lots of change in ergonomy, relations, lots of improvements. But we know that some customers are not always okay with the change. So you will have to coach this change in your environment, in your company, and you will have to manage this change with your resources. Also, there are 5 years between the 2.7 and the 3.2, so there is no common version of PHP nor MariaDB between these versions. So you have to have some infrastructure skills, if I can say that, to make the migration. It's not really difficult, but you have to be aware that there are no common versions. So there are some infrastructure work to do. And PHP 8 is much more restrictive than the oldest version of PHP. So if you have developed some custom modules, if you have insert some code into your iTop, be aware that you may have some adaptation, some modification to do, not to have some deprecate or PHP issue between those versions. Of course, I don't think we have to remind you that you shouldn't migrate your production first. Test this in pre-production or staging environment, please.
Yes, thanks, Benjamin. Just to give you some example about this slide, at Combodo, we made some customization in order to do some automation. And when we migrated in June, we had some troubles. For example, we are synchronizing the application Odoo with iTop, and it was no more working. We believed that it was due to the migration 3.2, and in fact, it was just a piece of code that was dividing number by zero value, which was accepted with PHP 7.4 and no more accepted by PHP 8. That's just a basic example, but to enforce the message of Benjamin, really pay a great attention to that. All the automatism, all the small customization, all the PHP module you may have developed, for example, if you are part of the community, it may have an impact. And it's really important to test on the staging with real data. Why? Because most of the issue you may encounter with PHP, it's related to the data. A division by zero is seen if you have data that store zero, else you don't see it. So that's really important to have this in mind. On our side, as Benjamin said, we spend a lot of time to migrate all our extensions. So we fix PHP issues, deprecated stuff with iTop 3.2, but we cannot fix or control what you have done. Even if it's stored in the ITSM designer, we cannot analyze the quality of the code. We can analyze the consistency of what you have done according to what we have changed. Okay, so pay attention to that. It works. If you're aware of what you have done, it will work perfectly. There is no real issue. If you forget what you have done, it's really important to check. Okay. So thank Benjamin. So as Benjamin said, it's a non-destructive version, but as we cannot prevent us on developing new features, we have inserted in the 3.2 version few new functionalities. It's not disruptive, it's the consolidation of what we have done in the past. But the first one we have done, which was asked by a lot of customers, is the capability to directly send notification in iTop. And for that, we have used the small bell you have on the top left corner of the application with the small red circle in order to pop up or send message to the user connected. The goal is to reduce the number of mail, and a lot of people want to be notified directly in the application and no more by mail, like a lot of social network, for example. So we use the bell for that. And you can use all the iTop events that happen, creation of object, update, change in the workflow, whatever, to trigger a news, what we call a news. When this news is displayed, and after this presentation, I will do a small demo. When the user click on one of the news, he will directly connect in general to the iTop object that generated this message. You will see just after that people can deactivate that if they want. So some use case, for example, for this is, let's imagine I'm a support agent. I'm working in iTop all the day, and someone assigned me a ticket. It's not something I picked in my ticket list. It's someone who assigned me a ticket. Automatically, I will have a small red circle that will appear on the bell. informing me that there is something new. I will click on the bell and I will see the message. A ticket has been assigned to you. And when I will click on the message, I will arrive directly on the ticket. The same for a reply of a customer. You ask a question to the customer, he reply, you are notified real time. And if someone mention you on a ticket, the mention capability is something new with the 3.0 version, so two years ago. It's the same. You will see someone mention you, you click on the ticket, you answer. So the big interest of this capability is to have everything accessible directly in iTop, and you won't have to switch from iTop to your mailbox and vice versa. So here you see I'm in iTop connected as Agatha, who is a support agent. So Agatha is working on ticket day to day from soon on the morning and late on the evening. And as you can see, I have here a small red circle over the bell that tell me that there is some news for me. If I click on it, automatically I can see the news I've not seen. For those that are used to the iTop hub in the community, it's exactly the same message. You will see here the iTop message, the hub message. It's the news center, I would say. So I have a message, for example, someone mentioned me in this ticket. So it's Jules Verne. So it was 3 days ago. Yes, I was on weekend or on vacations. When I click on it, I reach automatically stuff, and effectively, I can see Jules that sent me a message. Jules is a French guy, so he has written everything in French. Okay? So that's the way I can be informed very quickly without looking at my emails. If I want to see all the messages, I just have to click here and I can see all the messages I've not scrapped already. I can delete everything to do some cleanup. There is a cleanup mechanism for all read messages, and I can reaccess very quickly stuff if I want. The second capability we have reintegrated into the iTop professional version for the customer. It's the calendar invitations module. So it's a module available on the hub, and there was an update as well on the hub on Tuesday. And we have made some improvements in March, April, in order to have a complete synchronization of an event in iTop with the calendar. So this will allow you to synchronize, I would say, planned information directly with your calendar. So Google, Office 365, Outlook. As soon as it's an ICS invitation, it will work. And the main improvements we made is the capability to, of course, create an invitation. It was already the case. But from now, you can as well update the invitations or delete the invitations. So some use cases for that. For example, let's imagine I have a task to manage. So remember, on ticket, we can create subtasks for different people. When I create the task, I will send an invitation to the guy telling him, for example, this evening at 6, you have to change a tape recorder on your machine. And let's imagine that in between, we change the start date, because it's not today, it's tomorrow, and maybe it will be at 10 o'clock. We will resend an invitation that will automatically, when it's accepted, of course, update the previous one. And if we delete the task, for example, it makes no sense to make it, we will delete potentially, or we will cancel the task in iTop, and we can send deletion invitations to delete the invitation in your calendar. So that's some examples that are really useful. And as I said, updating and deleting was really missing in this module. Now it's there. It could be used to remind someone that there is a change planned during the evening. So before leaving the office, you will be informed that you have to stay a little bit longer to manage the change. Sometimes people forget. Or, and that's a non-technical aspect, in iTop you can manage your customer contract or your provider contract. And so you can imagine to have an invitation in your calendar to remind you that you have to renew it at a given period of time. So for people that like to use calendars to manage what they have to do, this improvement in calendar invitation may be very, very useful. Okay? And I will show a small example as well just after. We have configured in this demo the notification that is able to send invitation to someone. So for the moment, I have a user, which is called Charlie Jones, who is as well a support agent that is following what he has to do day to day and his meeting in a calendar. I took a Google Calendar, for example, but it works as well with Outlook or Office 360. I'm Agatha, and I decided to create a new work order, a new task for this guy. So I create my task. Okay, please do so. I affect it to someone. So Charlie, I will ask him to do something, and it's planned for this evening. So by default, this extension set the date of now. I will say it's at 6 p.m. today. Okay? And I do it. Maybe I will inform via a news Charlie that there is a task for him. But in the same time, if I look at the different work orders, here you see we trigger a notification. So it's a particular notification. It's an invitation. It had been sent to this mailbox. And you see here, if I look at the calendar, the invitation arrives. Okay? So like any invitation, I can decide to accept, not accept, etc. When you do something in Outlook, there is no API to send you back stuff. Okay? So I will accept. Yes, I will do the change today. So normally it's planned at 6. In between, as I said, in fact, we realize that at 6, it's a little bit too soon because some people are still working and this task may lead to a service interruption or whatever. So I will just update and say, no, Agatha wanted me to do it at 6, but I will do it at 7 p.m. I apply my modification. There is a second notification that is sent. And if I look at the calendar, the invitation had been moved. Okay? So automatically, we will be able to synchronize for those that are interested in managing such events directly in their calendar. We will be able to synchronize this automatically. Okay? Of course, it requires some configuration in the trigger and the actions to implement this. Nothing is hard-coded in iTop. And you can imagine all the capabilities of the trigger and the actions to do this for some people, but not the other. Filters, set conditions. Try to make it simple, but you can do a lot if you want. So as we have implemented a new capability to notify people, the newsroom, and as several customers ask us, as well as in the user in the community ask us to unsubscribe or deactivate, depending on the user, some notification, we have developed, in parallel of the newsroom, we have developed a mechanism, an area in iTop to allow the end user to unsubscribe from notifications. So it's only for people having access to the console. For the moment, all those news and messages are not available in the portal user. But the idea really is to allow the guy to say, okay, I prefer to use email or I prefer to use news. And the idea is to let him to choose. And so in some cases, the user, as soon as he has received event, will be able to say, okay, for example, when I mentioned, I don't want to receive an email, or I don't want to receive a news, but I prefer to have an email. So each user will be able to choose. But if for any reason in your company, the administrators or the manager decide to prevent you to do it, the administrator that configured those notifications using the trigger mechanism will be able to decide if they allow you or not to unsubscribe from an event. So it's really a trigger by trigger. So they can allow you a complete unsubscription. You can decide to deactivate everything, or they can force you to use at least one channel, news or email, or they can prevent you to unsubscribe because it's mandatory for them to inform you and you have to keep informed. So depending on the way you work in your company, depending on your processes, you can decide to choose one or other options. It's up to the administrator to decide. Nothing is hard coded in iTop, so they can choose. By default, I think it's allow complete unsubscriptions in order to change the habit as it was before. And I will show a small example with a fake user receiving a lot of messages. So now let's imagine that the administrator has configured emails, news, is not aware what you prefer. Potentially, you can receive both for each type of event. So if you click here, or if you click on the notification center and your preferences, you can see all the message type you have already received. So this area is empty while you have received neither email nor news. But as soon as you have received one of them, you can decide. So you see, for example, for the mention, I can have both. Okay, the administrator has configured both channels. But I can decide if I prefer to have email or both or just news. Okay, I can manage that. But the administrator in that case has configured the system to prevent me to deactivate all. You see, I have a message. You need to have at least one, so I have to keep one. Okay, so I have to choose what I'm interested in. In that example, I have a channel configured. I can completely deactivate it because the administrator allows me to say, okay, I don't want to be bothered by such a message. If I want to be informed, I will look at my ticket frequently. So it's the user that pulled the ticket to see what happened. Or I can be notified. So remember that even if you remove something or deactivate something or unsubscribe, we use all those words, you can reactivate it if you want. And in that case, for example, when an agent has to be informed because the ticket had been assigned, the administrator has decided that you cannot deactivate it. So it's really up to the administrator to decide what you want to do. Okay, so that's really interesting. And I remember you the goal. The goal is not to bother people with unwanted messages, but if the company has decided to force you to have message, you won't be able to unsubscribe. Then a very important initiative made by one of our developers at Combodo, who's called Stefan. We try to work on improve the accessibility for some people that have read disabilities. Okay, we have improved in 3.0 and 3.1 the way to change the look and feel of iTop based on CSS and so on. We have developed different, I would say, themes, and the idea was to provide themes for colorblind people. There is different disease: protanopia, deuteranopia, or tritanopia. It's the complexity to see some colors. Those people will be able to choose in their user preferences, and sorry, the screen copy is in French, the one they are interested in. And that's really, really important. So what are the changes? Depending on the theme they will use, some colors won't be used because, in fact, they don't see those colors. For example, our magic orange is replaced, I think, by a cyan color or a light blue color. And as we was working on that, we decided as well, or Stefan decided as well, to create a third theme, which is a high contrast theme, in order to highlight different parts of iTop. The buttons, the search criteria, even in the tables, there is more dark lines in order to separate each line. So each user can choose this depending on the way they would like to use iTop. And thanks to Stefan, we succeed to be compliant with WCAG-AA, okay? With 2.7 version, we made a test with the Score Lighthouse of Google. The mark was 2.8. With these new terms, it's 100%. Okay, so we are 100% compliant. It's not a certification, okay, but it's very useful. And last point we made, not for people that have visual issues, but for the customers that are running 2.7 version, we have created as well a compact theme available for dark moon and full moon theme that I would say compactify what we display on the screen. Because with the 3.0 and 3.1 version and the full moon theme, we have made something a little bit more dense. And some customers were complaining about that because they wanted to see a lot of things in a small screen. And so we have decided to provide this theme. We have tested it with some customers and we have reintegrated it into iTop 3.2 for the customers and for the community as well. So we hope that with this initiative, more people will be able to use iTop in our philosophy of ITIL for everybody. We try to enlarge the scope of people that are allowed to use iTop. As Benjamin said, there is a new HTML editor. So for compatibility reason with CK Editor 5, it was a tough job because it's really a disruptive change. And so we have to reintegrate everything. It's a simplified interface. Okay, you see at the top the previous one and at the bottom the last one. There is mostly the same capabilities. Some stuff had been simplified, but it's you can do the same as before. And something really important, there is a better management of the tables. Some customers are using tables to structure the message, mainly when they write facts and stuff like that. It's really improved. A second improvement, less important, it's the management of inline images as well a little bit better. So we do hope that it will improve the application, and we do hope as well that you won't be completely lost with the new button. So in the migration notes, as Benjamin explained, we have described what had been replaced by what. And normally you should find the capabilities you need quite easily. And the last features, which is more data model oriented, it's a small improvement in the portal. We had no time, and we will see what's coming next, but we had no time to improve the look and feel of the portal for 3.2.0. But we have added a capability we have developed for a lot of customers as a custom into the portal. It's the capability to search in the portal all the tickets we are allowed to see. So it's a small brick that describe here a Google-like search, except that it's just for the ticket and it has nothing to do with Google. And it's searched mainly in reference, title, and description. So you can type whatever keywords you want, and automatically you will have the list of tickets. Whatever it's open, closed, resolved, you will see quickly everything. And I will show you that very quickly during the demonstration that is coming right now. Last small stuff I wanted to show you. For example, Agatha is a support agent, but she can switch as well to the portal. She wants to look at a ticket. She will just type either the reference or whatever text, enter. She arrives on the ticket as you are used to. But in this view, she will see all the requests and not just like here the ongoing or the closed. Okay, she will see the ticket corresponding to this search criteria, and depending on the filter set, you may have more or less tickets. So it could be useful to search in closed stuff. For example, I had in mind that in one previous ticket, I had an issue with a printer. I typed printer, and automatically I will see all the tickets where the title or the description was containing a printer. It's not a full text search for the moment. But as we made that for several customers via the designer in a customization, we believe that it was really interesting to do it for everybody by default. If you want to deactivate it, like any other customization, it can be done in iTop. Now, as at Combodo, there is the end users, but there is as well the administrators that are important. I will let Benjamin present you the two new functionalities we made for the administrators.
Yeah, we have also some new features for the admin. So we have simplified the configuration of the SSO or the delegation of authentication. Before everything was needed to be made in the configuration file, which is not really easy. Now we have a brand new interface allowing you to configure your SSO. Of course, you have to understand the meanings of the params needed by your providers, but it's much more easy to configure an authentication delegation from now, and you can make some provisioning from this web page. We also include some new providers. So lots of you have asked for key clock integration. It's now okay, but we have a list of 30 providers, I think, compatible with this extension. And one of the new features is you can now configure several times the same provider. If you have several customers on Microsoft Graph, you can configure each of their Microsoft Graph as a provider in this extension, and then you will be able to connect to the good customer infrastructure if needed.
So as you can see, for the moment, I just have the iTop prompt for the connection because we have not yet configured the SSO Google. That's the example I will give you. We don't have configured the SSO Google authentication, so I can connect only with local passwords, which is always recommended to keep because if your SSO is down, you can connect anyhow with some backdoor logins. And so here in iTop today, before using the full configuration, so the big PHP file that configure iTop, I was able to configure such authentications, but I had to dig into this stuff. With the new interface, like with SAML introduced in iTop in 3.0, you can do it for OpenID and OAuth. So here I have a small interface. The administrator can specify which provider I are allowed. So you can restrict the provider you would like to allow in iTop, and then we will be able to configure. So for example, I will pick Google. I can enable it. So as Benjamin said, we have to know what SSO means. There is an identity provider, there is a client. So I have to configure the identity provider first. I have to allow iTop and so on. And when it's done on Google, for example, or Microsoft Graph, you have, normally they should provide you a provider ID, the key that identify you, and the provider secret, the password, the secret, that make sure that it's you. So I can enter my provider ID, blah, 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 blah. It's always a complex string with numbers and characters. Then my secret, I have to enter. Okay. As the library we use allow you to set up some capabilities in your authentication. For example, with Google, I can enable the user provisioning. It means that if the guy is not known in iTop, either his login and his contact will be created automatically according to the information you have in iTop. We can change the label, the tooltip, and the icon of the button if the default one provided by the library is not okay for you. And of course, the system will give you what's the landing page we have to configure in the provider in order to go back to iTop once the user is authenticated. So I've configured the stuff, so I'm not entering stuff in the PHP file. And when I save, I can just save the connections or save and test, and that's what I will do. Okay, and now you see automatically we have configured this button in order to verify if my configuration was fine. So when I click here, it won't work. But if I click here, we will ask Google if he authentify us for iTop. He will say yes once you have entered your login and your password, and then we go back to iTop. Okay. If your time to leave, if your authentication is available for X hours, each time you will reconnect to iTop, you won't have to re-enter your password. That's the basic principle of single sign-on authentication. Okay, so as you can see here, we were able to configure this without having to access the iTop configuration, which could be prevented for people.
We've also added a new feature allowing you to delegate the module configuration. We have made in the past the delegation of small administrator features. Now the administrator is able to delegate the configuration of some module in iTop. So the people able to see this page are able to see the configuration of only one or only the modules delegated to him. This can be useful in some secure environment. I can think of some environment where we don't want the admin of iTop to be able to read the password of the database or to have some technical information on the infrastructure behind iTop. In this case, we can delegate the configuration of the module and keep the configuration of iTop secret. In this example, I think we delegate the approval bypass to the service manager or to a support agent. So now a support agent is able to configure approval extended directly from iTop interface.
The second point, and I won't show you how we configure stuff, but if I go back to my support agent, as Benjamin said, we have configured, for example, our demo to allow the user to configure the approval mechanism and the surveys. So you see here the small icon, which is by default only displayed for the administrator, is now available for this profile. If I click on it, I will have my module configuration. And when I click on my module configuration, I just see what I'm supposed to configure. So this example is quite basic. We could imagine more complex stuff. And I would say it's useful for big company where you have different type of people with different roles in the company. Important point, as it's a PHP interface, we control the syntax. We verify when the guys save the configuration that we save only what is allowed to see, and we exclude all PHP code that has nothing to do with the configuration. So you cannot, normally, we never know, but you cannot hack iTop using this mode. Okay, so that's really important as well. And of course, there is for administrators and integrators all the capabilities we provide in 3.0 and 3.1 for those that have not yet migrated and that are waiting for the 3.2 LTS. So that's it for the demonstration. So Benjamin, what's next after this release? Because we never stop.
No, we never stop. So what's next? The first thing we are working on is a new look for the portal. We have renewed the look. We have a much more modern look in the back office since the 3.0, but the portal needed also a little refresh, I would say. So we are working for a more modern look on the portal, and we are trying to make it compatible with the 3.2. Another feature that are asked a lot by our customer is the multi-factor authentication. So we are nearly ready. We have lots of work already done on this, and we will provide a mechanism, a new feature allowing you to use the multi-factor authentication. So we will talk about it later, but it seems very good. As you said, we never stop. So the 3.2.1 is already planned for the end of the year. Just as a reminder, at the beginning of an LTS, you can expect to have a release approximately every 3 months. So I think that's it for me.
Just one point important. As Benjamin said, we try to make this new look and feel for the portal available with 3.2. We would like to have this as the default portal in 3.3. So it will be the opportunity as well to validate with the customers, with the people in the community, that it's really good, in order to maybe make some improvements, and in order to make sure that in 3.3 we have this as the default. That's really important for us. We remind you as well that you can do the customization by yourself, but it requires some CSS and web competencies that is not the capability of everybody. That's, I would say, for iTop in general, but we have a team that worked as well a lot on integration. So we have integrated on the hub and it's available for customer as well, not directly integrated in iTop Professional, but as an additional extensions, the capability to use your time zone, the user time zone in iTop. So what does it mean? It means that if you are in America, you will see the different date and so on in your time zone. If you are in India, you will see the same date in another time zone. So it's just a display. It's not a computation of the SLA and so on according to the time zone where you are. It's much more complex. It's more a user interface capability that allow you to see the date and time in your time zone. As well, our integration team developed 1 year and a half ago a plugin for integrating ICT into iTop. So when someone calls you, you directly open pages in iTop, either a ticket or the result of a research or the information of the contact. You can as well call him directly from iTop. We have improved this extension, in order to manage the different type of phone number, the way we configure stuff. So that's interesting as well. And for those of you that are using call centers and so on, look at it, because, for example, it tracks all the calls in iTop. So you can see the delay between when the phone ring and when you create the ticket, how you respond and so on. So it's quite useful. And it works with all the telephony engine that are able to call an HTTP page. And last but not least, some months ago, we released a collector for Office 361 in order to collect information about contact, teams, and so on, like we had with the LDAP collector. So the team made a strong improvement to collecting all the feedback from the first customer that have used the extensions. And now you can really do a good synchronization with Office 361 as we were used to with LDAP. It's even better than with LDAP. So those three extensions are available, and they are available for the customers. Just come back to us or in the hub.